Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, give me 1 second here. All right. On this 22nd day of December, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 14, the three modes of material nature. Text 18, right? Okay, on page 581. 581. Okay. Urdvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavritti sta adho gachanti tamasa. Urdhvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasa. Urdhvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasa. Urdhvam gachanti Urdhvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasa. Bhushan. Urdhvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasa. Prabhu, you want to try? Urdhvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasa. Luis. Urdhvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasa. Madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista gachanti tamasa. Urdhvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasa. Go ahead. Madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasa. Bhakta Chad.
Hare Krishna to you, Hare Krishna to you, Dravida Prabhu.
Haribol Prabhu.
Urdhvam gachanti satvastha
Urdhvam gachanti satvastha
madhye tishtanti rajasaha.
madhye tishtanti rajasaha.
One sec.
Jaganya.
Jaganya gunya vrittista
Jaganya gunavrittista
adho gachanti tamasaha.
adho gachanti tamasa. Anyone else there? Vanessa? Okay, it's a little late. Urdhvam, upwards, gachanti, go, sattvastha, those situated in the mode of goodness, madhye, in the middle, tishtanti, dwell, rajasaha, those situated in the mode of passion, jaganya, of abominable, guna, quality, vrittista, those whose occupation, adaha, down, gachanti, go, tamasaha, persons in the mode of ignorance. Okay. Translation. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. Purport. In this verse, the results of actions in the three modes of nature are more explicitly set forth. There is an upper planetary system consisting of the heavenly planets where everyone is highly elevated. According to the degree of development of the mode of goodness, the living entity can be transferred to various planets in this system. The highest planet is Satyaloka, or Brahmaloka, where the prime person of this universe, Lord Brahma, resides. We have seen already that we can hardly calculate the wondrous condition of life on Brahmaloka. But the highest condition of life, the mode of goodness, can bring us to this. Excuse me. The mode of passion is mixed. It is in the middle between the modes of goodness and ignorance. A person is not always pure, but even if he should be purely in the mode of passion, he will simply remain on this earth as a king or a rich man. But because there are mixtures, one can also go down. People on this earth in the mode of passion or ignorance cannot forcibly approach the higher planets by machine. In the mode of passion, there is also the chance of becoming mad in the next life. The lowest quality, the mode of ignorance, is described here as abominable. The result of developing ignorance is very, very risky. It is the lowest quality in material nature. Now, quality Prabhupada would often use to mean mode, and I think he's using it here that way, because it's the same word in Sanskrit, guna, triguna. So I'm going to read mode when it should be mode. Excuse me. The lowest mode, the mode of ignorance, is described here as abominable. The result of developing ignorance is very, very risky. It is the lowest mode in material nature. Beneath the human level, there are 8 million species of life, birds, beasts, reptiles, trees, etc. And according to the development of the mode of ignorance, people are brought down to these abominable conditions. The word tamasaha is very significant here. Tamasa indicates those who stay continuously in the mode of ignorance without rising to a higher mode. Their future is very dark. There is an opportunity for men in the modes of ignorance and passion to be elevated to the mode of goodness. And that system is called Krishna consciousness. But one who does not take advantage of this opportunity will certainly continue in the lower modes. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. So, if we refer back to text 22 in the last chapter, we find very pertinent verse. Purushak, it's page 553. Purushak prakatisto hi bhunkte prakati jan gunan karanang gunasangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. Which means, the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying or experiencing the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. So this is exactly pertinent, because what is saying here that the cause or karana of taking sadasad yoni janmasu, good or bad births, is our association with the three gunas. We choose that. We can decide which gunas we're going to cultivate. That's the whole point. We have a discrimination intelligence in the human form of life. So the Purusha, the living entity trying to be the enjoyer, is known as the Purusha. Situated in Prakriti, nature, experiences Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan, these three gunas, or three modes of nature, that are generated from Prakriti, Prakriti Jan Gunan. But as we associate, Karanam, the cause of taking good or bad births, is a guna sangha, is how we choose to associate with those modes. We can cultivate goodness, passion, or ignorance. Or we can just not even know anything about this and things just take their natural course. And especially in this age, when the modes of passion and ignorance are so prominent, we'll probably be getting into those modes. So, Krishna is giving us the results. Urdhvam gachanti means to go up. Urdhvam is up. If you're nicely situated in the mode of goodness, you'll go up. But Krishna discourages this material mode of goodness and leading to the material heavenly planets in other parts of the Bhagavad Gita. He says, I forget the Sanskrit now, but when one's mind is distorted by material desires, one becomes controlled by the external modes of nature. And you may, if you get attracted to the mode of goodness, you get that association, then you may worship me. If you try vidyamam soma paputa papa yajyagya svargatim pratayante. I think this is in chapter 9. So try vidya means the vidyas or the Vedas that deal with these elevations to the heavenly planets, the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. I once Googled it, Karma Kanda. There's so much you can find out. And sure enough, came up with, I think, a section of the Rig Veda or something. And it was all, verses worshipping Indra. Getting Indra's mercy so you can go to the heavenly planets, But then the next verse, Krishna says, for those who do it just right, they can actually go up. So, Tetam Bhuktva Swargalokam Vishalam Chine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti. That those who succeed in this process of worshipping Indra or cultivating the mode of goodness and going to the heavenly planets, then when they get on the heavenly planets, oh, I made it. Here I am in Nandana garden with Indra. Tetam Bhuktva Swargalokam Vishalam. Vishalam means very wide and deep kinds of enjoyment that you can't get here. It's a higher standard. Okay, so you're enjoying like anything. I made it. But every day that you're there, you're using up your pious credits. So chine punya, when that punya, that pious credit becomes skinnier and skinnier, chine is used up. You're cast out. Chine punye martya lokam vishanti. And you come back, you fall back again to this world of death. He doesn't mince any words. So what have you achieved? Evam trahid dharmam, by this trahid dharmam, by worshipping this karma kanda, anupapanna gatagatam, you go and you come, gatagatam kama kama labante, by trying to enjoy this material desires. You haven't made any progress. You've wasted, 100,000 years. You can live so long up there, So the point is, if you keep I remember, wasn't there a song, Keeping Your Eye on the Prize? That was the Civil Rights Movement. Keep your eye on the prize, you have to be determined to go through. So that's very important, to know what that prize is. The ultimate prize is to leave this world entirely, to transcend the modes of nature and be reinstated in our position. And remember, we spoke of pure goodness, not just sattva guna, but rather shuddha sattva guna. It's not really one of the gunas at all. It's pure goodness. And in that state of pure Krishna consciousness, which is called the Vasudeva state, when Vasudeva appears, you achieve Vasudeva. That's our original state. And no more falling down, because you're no longer attracted to anything in the modes of nature, in the lower modes of nature. So that will come up. We're coming to the end of this chapter, and Krishna and Arjuna will ask pertinent questions, as he always does. Okay, how do I transcend these modes? And what is the symptom of one who has transcended the modes, and how do I transcend the modes? And those are the last verses in the chapter, and they're very important. They're the whole idea. So, let's see. I think we should. Okay, so the idea is that the modes come and go. Sometimes the mode of passion can become most prominent, and then we get sobered up a little bit. We get in the mode of goodness. We try to advance, and then it becomes a little difficult. The mode of ignorance takes over, and you get. So we go. This is what it is to be materially conditioned, and but the whole idea is to become fixed in the mode of goodness, and that's a good platform upon which you can cultivate pure Krishna consciousness. What is the process of cleanliness, self-control, all of those are mode of goodness. If you come and live in the ashram in the temple, it's meant to be in mode of goodness. You got to get up early, you got to stay clean, you perform things that cultivate the mode of goodness, the mode of pure goodness. And so it's an advantage. But if not, then you make your home a temple and you know, try to create that environment. So that's what's being talked about here. Okay, so no questions. Text 19. Nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada drishtana pashyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam sodigacchati. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. So now he's talking about transcending the modes. Purport. One can transcend all the activities of the modes of material nature simply by understanding them properly, by learning from the proper souls. The real spiritual master is Krishna, and he is imparting this spiritual knowledge to Arjuna. Similarly, it is from those who are fully in Krishna consciousness that one has to learn this science of activities in terms of the modes of nature. Otherwise, one's life will be misdirected. By the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, a living entity can know of his spiritual position, his material body, his senses, how he is entrapped, and how he is under the spell of the material modes of nature. He is helpless, being in the grip of these modes. But when he can see his real position, then he can attain to the transcendental platform, having the scope for spiritual life. Actually, the living entity is not the performer of different activities. He is forced to act because he is situated in a particular type of body conducted by some particular mode of material nature. Unless one has the help of spiritual authority, he cannot understand in what position he is actually situated. With the association of a bona fide spiritual master, he can see his real position, and by such an understanding, he can become fixed in full Krishna consciousness. A man in Krishna consciousness is not controlled by the spell of the material modes of nature. It has already been stated in the 7th chapter that one who has surrendered to Krishna is relieved from the activities of material nature. That's the Daivyesh Gunamayi verse that I read last night. Relieved from the activity of material nature. For one who is able to see things as they are, the influence of material nature gradually ceases. Now, I always like to think of Srila Prabhupada in New York, because when he first came, and he was struggling to get situated. So he eventually comes downtown, to the Bowery, which is the mode of ignorance personified. Guys, sitting on the street, drinking, and then lying on the street, down. And we see it everywhere here. In those days, if someone was down and out, and homeless, they went to New York and they lived on the Bowery. I don't think that every city didn't have that, or at least not like they did in New York. So I lived not on the Bowery, but on the Lower East Side, and I knew that area quite well. And to just, I didn't see Prabhupada down there. I came a little later, in '68. He was there, '66. But knowing how, I could just visualize Prabhupada walking there, and how he was seeing all this, but he was unaffected by it. You see, he was fixed in the mode of goodness, pure goodness, in Krishna consciousness. And then later on, when, or maybe at that point, he had his books, and that was what he had of value, and to make some money, he would sell his books. Either he would put them on consignment in certain bookstores, and they would sell occasionally, whatever it was. So he would go uptown, get on the subway, go uptown, and then when you get to like 42nd Street and 6th and 7th Avenue, you're in Times Square. And Times Square at that time was much seedier than it is now. They kind of, they gentrified it so they get more tourists coming through. But then it was like a lot of, movie theaters that was showing not so nice movies and everything, So Prabhupada is walking those very streets. And it's easy to be affected by that and get into the mode of ignorance. But obviously he wasn't, even though he was seeing that with it, but he was so fixed in the mode of pure goodness that it didn't affect him. So he personifies this Gunat Etana Titya Trin. This is the next verse. That when the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses. So Srila Prabhupada, now he was, and he was looking for students. That he was very happy to finally get a place of his own where he could give Krishna consciousness, chant Hare Krishna. And so he could see exactly what happened. The devotees would come in there. The students would come, and many of them were, pretty much affected by drugs or whatever, And I don't know if we haven't stressed this, but when we had a lot more people in the temple and we had a different and a bigger turnover of guests who would come in and leave, there was a certain rules that we had to set up. Who can actually come in the temple and sit, And we set up the Kṛṣṇa test. Kṛṣṇa test. C stands for clean. You have to be clean enough. R-E is respectful. And then you had two S's, sane and sober. Clean, respectful, sane, and sober, And sometimes you had people who didn't meet those characteristics, one or the others, So you had to say, sorry, you have to take a shower or whatever. But just, huh? No, right here. Right in here. So that's like a basis for being able to hear. You have to, the whole idea is you come and you hear the holy name, you hear the Bhagavad Gita, you hear the devotees, And of course you can take prasadam and you can take part. But there's a certain, cutoff point where you have to lift yourself up to, civilized mode. So it's more or less the same way. This is, okay, you've come to the point of, you're reading the Bhagavad Gita, you're interested in spiritual life. Now, you see, okay, then I want to try to lift up the influences on my life so that I'm not in this lower mode, which now I can recognize I was before, I was drinking or taking something. I don't want to do that anymore. And how do you get that desire to do that? By associating with someone who's in that transcendental mode, and especially in this age, chanting Hare Krishna. And that was Prabhupada's program, giving people a chance to chant, because by that chanting, you're directly associating with Krishna, especially when you hear the chanting from a pure source, like a pure devotee. And if you take part in that, then you get the experience of transcending the modes, meaning that you're not, you may have come in there and said, boy, I need a drink, but I'll hang out in this Hare Krishna for a while. But then you're in the kirtan, you say, I don't need a drink, stay high forever. I like that pamphlet, In other words, this is Lord Chaitanya's great mercy on us. Krishna in the form of Lord Chaitanya, giving us this powerful process. There's no hard and fast rules. Nam akari bahoda nijas tatravitan niyamatak smaranena kala. There's no restriction of time or place or person as to who can chant Hare Krishna. Everyone's eligible. Just join in. At least listen, Whereas if you go to, you want to study the Vedas, you can't even sit down and do it if you're not a Brahmin, right? You're not supposed to chant them if you're not a born Brahmin. Well, that's not very merciful, is it? But the Krishna consciousness is open to all. And by that attraction, then everything grew from that. He had a small crew who were seriously his students, and they were attracted to Prabhupada because he personified Krishna consciousness. And he was giving him all of this stuff. And so by their affection for Srila Prabhupada, Brahmananda and Satsrupa, Bhakta Steve and Bhakta Bruce, they agreed. They were working. They actually had jobs with the city. I forget what they were doing, but welfare or teaching or something. And they said, okay, we'll live here, and sleep on the floor, and we'll give our paycheck to Krishna. How do we do that, Prabhupada? Just give it to me. That's how you give it. I'll spend it for Krishna. And that's how things were going on. And the whole movement eventually grew on that basis. And people were working and going out and distributing books and doing various things. Some devotees would work outside, And so this is, these verses are very pertinent to that. How do we rise up from these modes which are affecting our consciousness and dictating how we act? Well, by the process of Krishna consciousness, you can rise up and be not affected by these lower modes. No, I'm not interested in that anymore. I used to do that, many years ago, but it's not attractive anymore. You're attracted to acting in the mode of goodness because that's pleasing to Krishna, and in that way you can make your future very bright. That's the idea. That you have a path out of these ropes. You remember the verse? Daivyesha gunmama maya guna. Guna means rope also. So if you're stuck in the habitual mode of passion and ignorance, you're bound by those ropes. How to get free? Well, you can be freed by someone who's already freed. So the spiritual master, he gives you instructions, or Krishna gives you instructions here. Oh, okay, you think of me, how to do that. Oh, chant Hare Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna, come in the morning, attend it, and hang out with the devotees, and you'll be lifting up the modes. No more passion and ignorance. I'll be honest with you, back in '68, I was living on the Lower East Side. I come from a total atheistic background. And even though I would encounter the devotees on the street sometimes chanting, bless my father, he trained me in music from childhood. So I was playing the little recorder instrument, which is Mozart had written some very nice stuff. I was playing Mozart with this flute. And for years I played the clarinet, and my father, he played the guitar, and he gave me some bongo drums and everything. So I had all this music. And I wasn't, it wasn't anything transcendental, but it came in real handy when I got into kirtan. And even I could play the drum. I'm sorry, I don't really know how to play the drum. I'm using my bongo beats on there, but I can keep a beat. But it allowed me to be attracted, I can to kirtan and so many things, and especially the Sanskrit. Because there's a very nice beat. I started to be attracted. So it was all, I'm very, very fortunate to have that and then to cultivate it. And now, all of us can feel that. The things that we used to be attracted to, well, I'm glad I'm got out of that influence, because how it could drag you down. And how you have some attraction for Krishna, and that you can see how we should try to cultivate more of it. So that's what this is all about. And to know the modes of nature, how they're working, is so important. You can see, I don't want to, get involved with that because that's in the mode of ignorance or the mode of passion, and that'll damage my Krishna consciousness. So, did we do 20 yet? I don't think we did that. All right. Gunane tanati chatrin Dehi deya samudbhavan Janma mrityu jaradukar Vimuktom itamashnate. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Purport. How one can stay in the transcendental position, even in this body, in full Krishna consciousness, is explained in this verse. The Sanskrit word dehi means embodied, the embodied, and that's a noun. Right? What does it say there? Yes, the embodied. You'll see in the word by words. I think we fixed that the Sanskrit word dehi means the embodied. In other words, the soul. Even although one is within this material body, by advancement in spiritual knowledge, he can be free from the influence of the modes of nature. He can enjoy the happiness of spiritual life even in the body, because after leaving this body, he is certainly going to the spiritual sky. But even in this body, he can enjoy spiritual happiness. In other words, devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the sign of liberation from material entanglement. And this will be explained in the 18th chapter. When one is freed from the influence of the modes of material nature, he enters into devotional service. So this brings up, the next verse. Now Arjuna said, well, what is the kaya lingais? What are the symptoms of how one does it, and how does one transcend? This is a very pertinent question that's coming up. And it all culminates in the last two verses of this chapter, as you see. Okay, There's no discussion. Let's go on. Arjuna Vacha. Kairlingai Stringune. No, excuse me. Kairlingai Stringunane Tan. Atito Bhavati Prabho. Kamachara Katam Chaitangs. Tringunan Ativartate. Arjuna inquired, "O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature?" Purport. In this verse, Arjuna's questions are very appropriate. He wants to know the symptoms of a person who has already transcended the material modes. He first inquires of the symptoms of such a transcendental person. How can one understand that he has already transcended the influence of the modes of material nature? The second question asks how he lives and what his activities are. So you have qualities and you have activities. Are they regulated or non-regulated? Then Arjuna inquires of the means by which he can attain the transcendental nature. That is very important. Unless one knows the direct means by which one can be situated always transcendentally, there is no possibility of showing the symptoms. So all these questions put by Arjuna are very important, and the Lord answers them. Now, of course, Prabhupada's language, symptoms is usually associated with some disease. But it can also mean, if you look it up, qualities that one has. So that's what Prabhupada means there. Okay, so now answer these questions are going to form basically the rest of this chapter, the last few verses. Shri Bhagavano Vacha Prakasham Chapavitting Cha Mohame Vichapandava Nadveshti Sampravittani Nanavrittani Kankshati Udasina Vadasino Gunayo Navachalyate Gunavartata Ityevam Yovatishtati Ningate Samadukka Sukak Swastha Samaloshtasmakanchanaha Tulya Priya Priyodhiras Tulyanindatma Sangstutihi Manapamanayos Tulyas Tulyo Mitradi Pakshayo Sararambapadityagi Gunati Tatsa Uchite. So these are the qualities. The symptoms. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material modes, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities, such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature." Purport. Arjuna submitted 3 different questions, and the Lord answers them one after another. In these verses, Krishna first indicates that a person transcendentally situated has no envy and does not hanker for anything. When a living entity stays in this material world, embodied by the material body, it is to be understood that he is under the control of one of the 3 modes of material nature. When he is actually out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the material modes of nature. But as long as he is not out of the material body, he should be neutral. He should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord so that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. When one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for sense gratification. But when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops. one does not need this body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act, but as spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. Thus, transcendentally situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. The next question concerns the dealings of the transcendentally situated person. The materially situated person is affected by so-called honor and dishonor offered to the body. But the transcendentally situated person is not affected by such false honor and dishonor. He performs his duty in Krishna consciousness and does not mind whether a man honors or dishonors him. He accepts things that are favorable for his duty in Krishna consciousness, otherwise he has no necessity of anything material, either a stone or gold. He takes everyone as his dear friend who helps him in his execution of Krishna consciousness, and he does not hate his so-called enemy. He is equally disposed and sees everything on an equal level because he knows perfectly well that he has nothing to do with material existence. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of temporary upheavals and disturbances. He does not attempt anything for his own sake. He can attempt anything for Krishna, but for his personal self, he doesn't attempt anything. By such behavior, one becomes actually transcendentally situated. So, with that, we can see that it's not so easy to disentangle oneself from the pushings and pullings of the material body. First of all, many of us, most of us, have come to Krishna consciousness after some time in an environment that's devoid of Krishna consciousness. I know, it took me, I was 26 before I joined the temple, and maybe 25 before I was even thinking about such things. But that's the good fortune that we have to be in this environment at this time. This is a period of the world since the 60s when Krishna consciousness has become more and more available in different contexts and in different languages and places all over the world. But in every case, it's the freedom of each individual living entity to turn his attention toward these ideas and this association, or remain conditioned in our, in our conditioned life. Now, there's many, especially in India, who have been from birth had this experience, and they're very fortunate. But the vast majority of people in this world haven't. But Krishna consciousness is so powerful, and Srila Prabhupada's mission, he was so intelligent, to translate these books and have them translated into all languages of the world. The key is the language. Where would we be if Prabhupada didn't translate them into English? His spiritual master knew that. He saw how English was, they were so influential that through English they would then reach out into other languages, and that's exactly what happened. He translated them into English, and gradually, as he made devotees in other lands, he said, "Oh, great! Please, produce a French Bhagavad Gita, a German Bhagavad Gita, a Russian Bhagavad Gita." And each time he did that, vast numbers of people had new access now. I mean, the story of how Russia was affected, I mean, it's just amazing. Prabhupada went to Russia, and the Soviet Union at that time. And so Shyama Sundar, they got the tickets, and he went in there. So right at the airport, the story, they've been going through his baggage and they found the Bhagavad Gita. And that was a no-no, So they called over, some, higher ups, in the police and everything. And Prabhupada explains, as he's saying on the tape, he said, "I thought I was finished. I thought I was a goner." He didn't use those words, but he knew, because he knew that you could be sent to a distant place. What they were doing, they'd send you to Subai, Siberia, you'd never be heard from again. So Prabhupada was thinking, oh boy, that's what's going to happen now. But Krishna saved them. They looked through it and they said, no, it's not dangerous. If it had been a Bible, it probably wouldn't have been more dangerous. So he got through. So then what to do there, So they finally got situated in a hotel room, And more or less there's a famous picture of Prabhupada walking before those towers of the Kremlin, famous. But Sharma Sundar was the one that had more, exposure at first, because he had to go out to forage, try to get some rice or, some fresh fruit. It was hard to get anything, even milk. So Prabhupada's sitting in a hotel room, and Sharma Sundar was in his devotee garb, So he met one young man who was intrigued, and so he invited him back to the hotel room. And Prabhupada gave him the whole treatment, Somehow he knew English, or enough English to be able to understand. And so Prabhupada gave him everything in a matter of 2 or 3 days. He initiated him. I forget his name. And he was the one and only Russian devotee. And then somehow, I don't know how, eventually he was able to, he was able to get some books. They translated them in Russian, and he was able to get some books and start distributing. And gradually, there was a core of Russian devotees, even in the Soviet Union. And they would hand copy the books, believe it or not, and then somehow bind them together, and that's what they would distribute. It's an incredible story. And eventually, some of them were arrested. They were put in a jail. How to chant? They had bread. They would make little balls of bread and string them, and they would, salted bread. That's the name of this famous book. I have it on my shelf. Incredible story, but the determination, revolutionary, and then I believe it or not, I got to visit Russia twice, in '93 '93, and also in 2004, I think it was. And by that time, of course, when the Soviet Union collapsed, that was a big thing. I came in just after that. 91, I think it was when it collapsed, and it was no more Soviet Union, and there was a whole thing going on. So I was able to get in, and it wasn't illegal. We had a little Rath Yatra, and outside, that was what happened. And I gave a lecture. Of course, it was translated. There was a devotee, and that was this famous sannyasi now, Bhakti Vigyan Swami. He was had just joined. He was in white. He was so brilliant. Usually, you can imagine giving a lecture in to a bunch of people who don't understand English. So then there's the interpreter. So you say something like I would say, okay, one who engages in full devotional service, and so I'd have to wait there. Okay, and they put that in Russian, and then I go like this, and now whatever I say. So that's kind of frustrating. But he was so good that it was like the UN, where he would hear, and as he's hearing, he's translating. Amazingly, so there wasn't that delay, So it was anyway. So so anyway, I would give a talk in the morning, and Harikesh Swami, he would give the afternoon talk, and so there's this big auditorium filled with devotees who couldn't, I needed my interpretation. So here's this English guy, and they gave me a little tambura, and I chanted Indranila Mani Manjula, and I was like a rock star, I swear, there was a couple of ladies fainted, or at least they pretended to. And then afterward, they brought up their books, their Russian little books, and wanted me to sign, I signed. And 2 or 3 of them, no, it's actually 2, decided that they wanted me to be their guru, even though I wasn't, actually a guru. I mean, an initiating guru. So they started writing me, and I still have the letters. Eventually, when we became clear I wasn't going to be a guru, one of them took initiation from a real, one of the devotees who was authorized. But it was very moving to see, how enthusiastic they were. And just in a few years, there was this, a lot of Russian devotees who were very serious, and they were chanting on the street and everything. So and they were becoming transcendental to these modes. That's the whole idea. You can recognize that, and you can feel it. And Krishna will give in these final few verses here the means. The next verse. Did we do 20? Yeah, we did 22 to 25. So that's the symptoms, the characteristics, and then comes the essential verse 26. Is how do you do it? Mamchyo vibhicharena. That's probably maybe the most famous verse here. So we'll deal with that one tomorrow. All right. What else? A couple of poems. All right, so I'm gonna give you this one first, which is, there's no Sanskrit for it. I wrote this once as part of my offering in Vyasa Puja. O Prabhupada, we hail the day when you appeared just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright to give this blind world back its sight. We thank you from the bottom of our heart and pray with deepest love that we may serve your lotus feet in every circumstance we meet. As years go by and books go out, we see what life is all about. To serve your mission and our Lord's by spreading wide your sacred words. As well you want us all to strive to let those words direct our lives. This safest path will lead us home, no more in Maya's realm to roam. Hari Hari Bol. Okay, I like that one so much so. Here's a classic you've heard before. We have 2 minutes. Where Krishna lives, felicity abounds. With pure simplicity and loving sensibility, all serve him with humility. But when the living entity rejects its true identity and as sheer stupidity surrenders to cupidity, he loses all sagacity, and with it all capacity to understand reality or curb his sensuality. Abandoning humility, he touts his own ability, forgetting his fragility and fortune's volatility. Immersed in asininity for what seems an infinity of lives devoid of piety, he suffers in anxiety till contact with God devotee, perhaps of utmost brevity, awakens his affinity for words of the divinity. Perceiving the futility of all his imbecility, he casts away his vanity. What is it? Perceiving the futility of all his imbecility, he casts away his vanity, and resumes his humility. What is it? Endowed with new humility, he serves with all ability and growing spontaneity, his guru and the deity. Regaining his identity, the wayward living entity returns to the fraternity of Krishna for eternity. You didn't know there was a big fraternity in this guy with Krishna, is it? All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.